Maybe you've seen this painting before. I feel like if you've seen it once, you can't forget it. Like it just gets stuck in your brain and won't. Hold on, I'm sorry, this is not right. Just give me one sec. So much better. Whoa. This piece is called The Fallen Angel by Alexandre Cabanel. The painting was an attempt by the artist to claw back his reputation in the art world. So he took a risk that ended up being a complete failure. But how? How could a painting this stunning be so unpopular? The devil's in the details, so let's take a closer look at this piece. We're placed in front of a fierce figure surrounded by angels flying overhead. They seem to be having a great time, but what's wrong with him? He looks a little tense. Maybe he's just upset because his bare bum is really cold from sitting on this rock. Are those wings I see? Well, he certainly looks like an angel, but who is this mysterious marble-like muscle man with impressively large tears? Let me introduce you to someone you probably already know. This is Lucifer. And welcome to his origin story. Let's rewind a bit to Paris in the year 1845. Cabanel is 22 years old and has just won the Prix de Rome scholarship, a scholarship that was awarded by the French government to young artists, giving them the opportunity to study in Rome. Cabanel made his debut at the Paris Salon just 1 year prior, and he quickly became the crowd favorite. Not that surprising, given he was extremely talented. I mean, look at this self-portrait he did when he was only 13 years old. Amazing. Fast forward to 1846, only 1 year later, his career took a turn when he submitted a piece titled Orestes, the subject of many ancient Greek plays. The story goes, when Orestes' father came back from war, his mother and her lover killed him. After this, Orestes murdered his mother and her lover. Because of his actions, the three Furies followed him everywhere he went, until he sought judgment for his crime and was acquitted. An interesting story, but much to Cabanel's horror, the judges absolutely hated this piece. They described it as an oversized and inept composition. This seemed to send the artist into somewhat of a quarter-life crisis. Much of Cabanel's work up to this point, although skillful, was admittedly a bit boring. It lacked emotion, and he knew it. Cabanel was a trained academic painter. The content of academic art had to be of high moral caliber. The subject in the paintings had to look ideal, their skin silky smooth and absent of any texture from the brush. Maybe you can guess what they thought of impressionist artists like Monet and Renoir. Cabanel was down, but he was not out. And although he had to work within the boundaries set by the strict art establishment, he needed to try something a bit different. And that he did. Here's the backstory. In the Christian tradition, Lucifer, one of God's angels, was so enamored with his own beauty, intelligence, and power that he began to desire the same honor and glory that belonged to God. He eventually rebelled against God, and as a result, he was cast out of heaven. The fallen angel seems to have landed on a rock atop a hill or a mountain. Given there's a mountainscape and clouds almost at the same elevation in the distance, and angels are flying not far overhead. He's in a reclined position, but his body appears tense and flexed, almost as if he's preparing to take flight once more. There's a stark contrast between the bright sky in the background and the dark foreground where the fallen angel lies, with the exception of the light cast on the subject's body. His feathers have an ombre pattern. The top appears lighter, almost matching the light blue sky above. The bottom is darker and almost blends in with the rock that he sits on. The angels in the sky seem to be rejoicing in his defeat and echo the same reclining crescent pose as Lucifer. His reddish-brown hair flows in the wind like an erratic flame. His right arm stretches in front of his body and clasps his left hand, covering the bottom half of his face, accentuating his red-rimmed eyes. It's like he's trying to hide his expression, but we can still tell how he's feeling. His smoldering eyes beam with silent rage, shame, and vengeance. A tear streams from his right eye, and another tear from his left eye hides in the shadows. This painting feels really confusing because this figure, who's the ultimate embodiment of sin and evil, and someone we should hate, is so relatable. There are a few reasons I think this is. The first is, we all know how he feels. Lucifer almost seems like a little boy sulking after being reprimanded for his actions. Haven't we all, directly or indirectly, had this experience at some point in our lives? On top of that, he certainly doesn't look like a monster. Quite the opposite, in fact. Cabanel's take on Lucifer's alluring appearance didn't come out of thin air. The Bible says in the book of Ezekiel 28, verse 12 and verse 17 respectively, "You are the seal of full measure, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Your heart was lifted because of your beauty. You have corrupted your wisdom by reason of your splendor." This painting is clearly rooted in a Christian perspective, but is ultimately based on John Milton's epic poem Paradise Lost, which reads, "But his face deep scars of thunder had entrenched, and care sat on his faded cheek. But under brows of dauntless courage, and considerate pride waiting revenge, cruel his eye, but cast signs of remorse and passion to behold the fellows of his crime." He paints Lucifer with the very human feelings of worry and sadness, mixed with courage and vengeance. This is the study of the piece Cabanel made before the final version. We can tell based on the preliminary work that it was an intentional choice on the artist's part to show more of Lucifer's face. I think this makes it easier for us to connect with him because of his undeniable beauty and raw emotion. But why did Cabanel want us to connect and empathize with such a figure? Could he have been trying to illustrate Lucifer's master manipulation abilities? The Bible verse Isaiah 11:14 says, "Satan masquerades as an angel of light." Maybe the artist is trying to portray that Lucifer's outward display of emotion is simply a tool he's using to draw in compassionate viewers. Cabanel was at a low point when he created this piece. His good friend Alfred Brujat had just left Rome in 1846, and the artist seemed pretty heartbroken about it. Cabanel wrote him a letter saying, "Several times of an evening I have put down on paper details for my present life as to send them to you in letters. On rereading them, however, I find them joyless and full of sorrow that I burned them." Yeah, I got kind of sad just reading that. Many young artists in his shoes loved to go out to explore the Eternal City, but Cabanel painted a very different picture of his life. A lonely one, in fact. He wrote to his friend in 1847, "I have been leading a rather ordinary life, one completely devoted to art. I have remained as untouched, as pure as Rome's Vestal Virgins of days gone by." I think it's safe to say Cabanel was dealing with his own demons when he created the fallen angel, and maybe this is the reason he was able to conceive such a captivating Lucifer, because he was going through some of the same emotions the fallen angel would have felt. Cabanel was the chosen artist of the day, just like Lucifer was God's chosen angel, but he was knocked off his pedestal, maybe not as dramatically as Lucifer was cast from heaven, but it could have felt that way to him. And there was more turbulence ahead. When the judges saw this painting, they wanted nothing to do with it. They said, "The movement is wrong, the draftsmanship imprecise, the execution deficient." They also claimed that it was too romantic in style. Furthermore, no student had ever submitted a piece of art featuring the devil as the subject, and definitely not one that looked like this, which certainly caused some drama to say the least. Cabanel was devastated once more and responded saying, "That's my reward for all the trouble I gave myself not to submit an average piece of work." It took 3 years for Alexandre Cabanel to finally win back favor with the judges with his piece, Death of Moses, and he went on to have an enormously successful art career. He was frequently appointed juror of the Paris Salon and became a teacher at his alma mater, training many generations of artists that followed. Possibly his most well-known masterpiece, The Birth of Venus, created in 1863, is considered the epitome of academic art. But let's be honest, it's no fallen angel. Shout out to Kitty for recommending this painting. If you like to ensure I see your comments in the future, you can sign up to become a channel member by clicking the join button below this video. Becoming a channel member makes it so I can more easily see and respond to your comments. Whether or not you become a member, I try my best to read all the comments I can, like Kitty's. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.